Here we are, episode 4 of The Last Sale. Welcome. This is a good one, Kevin. Scott Leese. You've probably seen him on LinkedIn and on the internet. He's quite the vocal voice in the sales community. He has a lot of good things to say. I enjoyed this conversation. The thing that came to mind when in the middle of the conversation and after this conversation, he was talking about personality types and how some people are more suited for the fast pace, closing lots of deals every day, and other people are more suited for kind of the enterprise, you know, um, world where you have things that are coming in every, I don't know, once a year, or, or maybe once every 2 years, and it's a different type of mindset and mentality for both of those. And he was talking through that and made me think about restaurant work. And I worked at a breakfast restaurant once where it was fast paced. People are in and out, coffee. What do you want? Eggs. How do you need them? Over easy toast. Boom. Here you go. And you're just taking care of hundreds of people in every hour. I mean, they're just in and out and you never stop moving. And I bartended in places that were like that too, kind of nightclub sort of atmosphere where it was just, I need a Bud Light, go, go. And you're just all volume. You're just go, go. How fast and efficient can you be? But then I've also worked fine dining. I mean, you got 2 or 3 tables for the whole evening, and you want to make those tables very special. You want to be very attentive. Everything's about detail. You're wanting to be likable, but not too much. You don't want to be too conversational where you're ruining their evening, but you don't want to be dead silent either. There's so much more nuance and space in that kind of slow fine dining restaurant world, and it's a very different mentality. It made me think of that, So it was a really cool conversation. His stories are very good. I don't want to give too much away, but very, very much worth listening into for some of the stories that he shared as well. But yeah, what were your takeaways? What were your thoughts after that conversation?
Yeah, it was a great conversation. Scott's a really good guy, really good salesperson, really good sales philosophy. And you're talking about just you have to define your personality type, right? Because you have to have a sales cycle and a job that fits your personality types. I think we have two different ones. You love enterprise sales, that long sales cycle where you don't really get much feedback for weeks at a time, sometimes months at a time, and you work very large deals. I'm more, I don't want to say transactional, but I like daily activity. I like bringing in lower amounts of money constantly. That's feedback that I desire. And that's what my personality is suited for. And, you can work on the big accounts, but you have to have that daily activity and that daily hustle. So I'm a busy bar type of person instead of fine dining.
Hey,
Just
hey,
a
hey,
burger and a beer at the bar.
it's a different thing. Hey, just because we're in enterprise world, Kevin, doesn't mean that we're not busy every day. Hey, we're doing things. It's
I know
just
you don't
you
get the
know
feedback though.
we don't
You
get the
get the wins,
feedback.
right? And that's what we were
Way
talking about, getting the wins. You have to get, I need constant wins.
yeah. Yep, I understand. Yeah, and it's a different type of mindset, and your busy work is very different. And it was interesting. I feel like I was the oddball. I felt like you and Scott were like, we need the feedback. And I'm like, give me all the uncertainty. I'll just bathe in it and who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, it was a cool conversation for sure.
Yeah, I like simple things, and I think enterprise is just too much complexity for me. A lot of times, I like a simple offer, a simple yes or no, and a simple move forward. A lot of times, one of the other key takeaways is kind of, and we heard about it a little bit in our last episode with Kevin Nolan, right? Is kind of like last sell or getting back to the roots, and you have to stack your wins. No matter what sales game you're in, you have to stack your wins. And sometimes those aha moments come in smaller deals, where you're testing your limits, where you're learning things. It's disconnected from, the grand results of life sometimes. And sometimes those hard deals make a lot of difference, or those first deals make a huge impact on saying, "Oh, I can do this." So, and those are oftentimes the most important sales that you make.
For sure. I mean, getting the snowball started is the most important part of the snowball, regardless of how
It
big or
is.
how fast it gets going. It's figuring out that you can make one and roll it. That's a big part of it. So yeah, super cool conversation. Let us know what you think. Like, subscribe, check out our sponsor, Go Payhawk. Be sure to go give them some love, and yeah, enjoy the conversation. And catch you next time.
How long you been in Austin? I'm just up the road in Dallas or Fort
Oh,
Worth.
I moved to Austin from San Francisco in 2011. So
Oh,
I got here a little bit ahead of the curve of
you
everybody.
did.
Yeah.
You did. That is ahead of the curve. That was back when Austin was just starting to pop, right?
Yeah. That's why I came here. Now that it's kind of popped, I don't know. I
Now, I
don't know if
mean,
I
it's
should
not
stay.
quite
I don't
as
know how much longer I should stay.
I know it's so expensive down there.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just
it's still cheaper than where I come from
true.
originally, but it is definitely not the same as it used to be.
So were you a 49ers fan first or a Bills fan first? Like what came first on the
Good question. My family is from the Niagara Falls, Buffalo area originally, and when I was a baby, that's kind of where I was at. My grandfather was a big Buffalo Bills fan, but we moved to Northern California, this town called Chico, which is about 3 hours north of San Francisco, when I was like a year and a half, something like that. So I kind of grew up with 49ers games on TV and everybody in town being 49ers fans. And then also my grandfather telling me, you need to be a Bills fan. This is your roots. So I grew up caring about both teams more or less equally. And, the 49ers had good runs when I was a kid. Bills
Hmm.
had an amazing run, never could finish it off. Then there was about 25 years of darkness for both teams that we don't need to talk about. And now both have been very relevant for the last 5 years and just have basically ripped my heart and soul out every season. So
yeah.
follow
So
me for more painful sports experiences.
I grew up in Atlanta, so I can understand like painful sports. Like I feel like Atlanta does that well. So um, yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, you have done that well. I mean, the Braves won the division like 12 years in a row and only won once, right? That kind of thing. I get it. You have the biggest Super Bowl collapse in NFL history. So yeah, if we stay on this topic long enough, I'll try to belittle you enough to make myself feel better.
And then, you know what? I would be used to it and accustomed to it, and the heart's been pounded so much that I'd probably be fine with it.
Yeah, I think you probably would. I'm kind of okay with it as well. It just comes with the territory.
So, question: what is your favorite? This is just I'm going to take a right hand turn just into a different topic, but what is your all time favorite vacation spot? Scott's going on one more vacation. Where is he going?
Man, uh, I went to this random surf town with about 10 of my buddies for one of the guys' bachelor party. This must have been 10 years ago now, maybe more than that. And there was nobody there. And when I say nobody, I mean like nobody. We had the beach and the waves to ourselves for a week. And I'm going to screw up the pronunciation, but it's like Playa Ashunchilo or something like that. And it was, I mean, all of us talk about it to this day. Like, how did that happen? How did we have perfect waves, nobody else around, good weather? So I've never gone back, but that would be on the list of places to go. You have this like cool drive through the jungle, it seems, and then all of a sudden, boom, opens up to the beach. So that's my idea of a vacation. these days,
And
disappearing like that.
where was that at?
It's in Nicaragua, actually,
Okay.
on the Pacific coast of Nicaragua.
Oh,
Yeah,
Nice.
nice.
Ashun Shilo, I think is the name.
And what's your favorite beverage? Could be alcoholic, non-alcoholic. Like just what are you reaching for if you're
Well,
thirsty?
these days, I literally only drink three things. That's it: regular water, tap water, still water, I should say, sparkling water, which I possibly have an addiction to, and then tequila. That's it. And every now and then, I might mix sparkling water with tequila and get real crazy. But that's it. I don't drink anything else. I don't drink juice. I don't drink soda. I don't drink beer. I don't drink any other alcohol. That's it.
So let's fast forward, and you've taken this crazy drive through a jungle. You've arrived on this beach in Nicaragua that I can't pronounce. I won't
Me
try.
either. Yeah.
And you're there with your friends. There's no one else there, but some kind of way, even though there's nobody else on the beach, there's tequila everywhere and little bottles of sparkling water that are like coming up out of the sand. And you're wondering, you're scratching your head, like, is this heaven? Is some sort of weird hell? Like, what's going on? But you do notice that you're older. You might have a few wrinkles, and you're definitely done working. Like, work is completely over. What if you're looking back in time? What was the last thing you sold?
The last thing I sold, it would have been a consulting contract. I run my own consulting business right now, so it would have been a six-figure consulting gig.
Why six
Yeah.
figures
Why six figures?
instead of five or seven or eight or four?
Well, the 4 and 5 is easy to answer. Easier to answer than the why not seven. I've been doing this for a while now, and I think I've got my niche and my kind of ICP and sweet spot down. And I primarily help early stage kind of Series A, Series B companies trying to go from 0 to 100, so to speak. And those types of companies who've raised a few $1 million, but haven't hit scale, and some of them barely even have $1 million of ARR right now. They're not spending $1 million on me or anyone as a consultant. So 7-figure deals are not really happening in my kind of arena that I play in. Why not 5 figures or 4 figures? I worked a long time prior to even being a consultant to learn the knowledge and effectiveness to get stuff done to help people. So that's just where I have valued my time and my work and my effort. So I usually work with people for about 6 months. Those contracts are usually 6 figures. Yeah, that would be the last thing that I sold.
So you seem to have your ICP, your ideal
Yeah.
customer profile down to a science.
Yeah, I guess it's a science. I don't really think of it that way necessarily, but when you're first getting started, I think a lot of people just say yes to anybody who's willing to pay them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to realize, well, I maybe can't have the right kind of impact with this type of client, or this type of client is actually problematic for me and I don't like dealing with them, and they can't do what I'm asking them to do, or they have a high probability of going under and therefore they don't pay me, or they don't pay me on time, all this kind of stuff. So you realize, like, who maybe do I not want to work with because I don't think it's going to be a good experience for me, and who do I maybe not want to work with because maybe I can't deliver the best experience for them. And for me, I try to get kind of tighter and tighter with what I think is my ideal customer profile, where they'll treat me well and I'll be able to deliver kind of maximum impact for them. And I try to get as many of those as I can and
So
avoid the others.
For this fictitious last sale, apart from the deal size, what do you envision or imagine that customer being like? And, the last customer that you consult, what is that experience like? If you were to think about it, what would be the nice last sale, the nice last consulting before you?
Yeah, I mean the big dream is they go off and have a a liquidity event of some kind. They grow and scale and get acquired or get profitable and IPO or something like that. I mean, those are the big wins for me. I think I've worked with somewhere between 100 and 200 different companies in the last couple of years, and I'm over a dozen exits of those companies. So, I'm shooting around, I don't know, for simplicity, let's call it 10%. So one out of every 10 companies that I've worked with in the last couple of years, inside of the last few years, has had an exit. So hopefully more to come, but that would be my hope, would be this group that I'm working with now. We're able to put the right systems and processes in place, get the right people in there, and kind of tee them up for success. And then, they run with it the rest of the way. They run the last mile, so to speak. And, and, it's just a good success story. It's like, Scott.com went on to, sell for $1 billion or whatever. Those kind of success stories, those are the wins that feel really good. Feels like everybody benefited,
For sure.
It does. It does. And 10% is about the going rate, right? Of success in the startup or early stage, maybe.
I don't know. That 10% feels pretty high to me.
It does. It sounds good. It sounds really good.
Yeah. I don't know the number anymore, but I remember it being very small a long time ago.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It is very small. I don't know the number off the top of my head either.
10% is the percentage of minor league baseball players that make it to the major leagues when they sign a contract.
Well, there you go. I'm at the very least, I'm like a AAA middle reliever.
Oh, you get to AAA, you get AA, you have a 33% chance.
Okay. So 10% is single A?
That's signing rookie ball. You sign a contract, you go to rookie ball, you have a 10% shot. You get to AA, it goes up to 33.
Well, I'm in rookie ball.
But it's still it's tough odds out there, no matter how you cut it, whatever they are.
I don't think the math for startups is the same as for baseball. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more credit.
So, and before that, I saw last night after the Super Bowl and everything that Corey Kluber announced his retirement.
Really?
Rich, you got a really good story about that we might get into here in a second. But going along those lines, Scott, when was your first sale?
My first sale? Well, my first sale in this kind of, technology, SaaS services type industry, that would be 2004. Probably would have been August of 2004. So roughly 20 years ago or so. My first sale of anything was probably like baseball cards when I was a little kid, selling cards to the shop or to friends, that type of thing. Oh, that would have probably been in like 1982, something like that.
Any notable baseball card sales that you can think back to?
Like Mickey Mantle rookie or something like that?
No, none of the like historical stuff. My grandfather grew up in Italy and then moved to New York, and he was a big like Brooklyn Dodgers fan back in the day. Anyway, he had, as he used to call it, garbage bags of like old baseball cards from bubblegum packs and stuff like that, right? And from that era.
Mm-hmm.
And when they moved to California from Buffalo, my grandmother, God bless her soul, threw it all out. And my grandfather never forgave her for it, and never neglected to tell us the story of, all these cards that he thought that he had that were, quote, probably worth something. Yeah. For context, some of these cards are probably worth, 5 to 6 figures at this point in time, if they were in any good condition. But yeah, my grandmother chucked it. Didn't deem it necessary to make the cross-country move.
Little did she know that there was a seasoned sales professional right there who could have
done
those cards.
I could have repurposed that stuff and raised my own Series A, you know?
You could have. You could have. It's good experience trading and selling and buying and selling baseball cards growing up. I did the same thing. I
Yeah, you certainly don't think about it. At least I didn't think about it back
yeah.
then. I didn't grow up in a family, full of business people or salespeople or anything like that. So there was no coaching or nobody telling me this skill is gonna serve you later in life. But you look back on it and you're like, okay, I was negotiating. There was something of value that I was trying to present in exchange for this other thing of value. And
Mhm.
you know, it's a yeah, the things that you did when you were little. And I was never one of those people that had like a lemonade stand or, you know, door knocked the neighborhood, running my own grass cutting business. I didn't do any of that kind of stuff. So that baseball card selling stuff is as close as I must have got to practicing sales skills as a youth.
That's awesome. Thinking back through your career, what was the most difficult or the hardest sales cycle? And you don't have to share like all the specifics, but is there one sales cycle or one sale that you think back to and you're like, wow, that was much more difficult than I thought it was going to be? Um, is there anything that sticks out in that regard?
Um, I don't know about more difficult than I expected, but I did a seven-figure deal with my team with the state government of Iowa years ago. And it was just kind of a good reminder of how slow moving certain industries are, how much red tape there is, how everybody can kind of agree that there's a problem and want to change this thing, but nobody's willing to stick their neck out to get it done and be
Mhm.
the fall guy if it goes wrong or something like that. So I'm not really built for that kind of world. I couldn't do that only. I need positive reinforcement. So said differently, I'm not the guy who's going to go home happy if I close one mega deal a year. That's not for me. I can't imagine coming home, if we were all roommates, I'd come home and one day out of 365 days, I tell you guys I closed the fucking deal today. I can't do it. It's 364 other days. What am I supposed to say? Oh, we pushed that deal forward from stage 8 to stage 9 today. And I got really multi-threaded today. That doesn't do it for me. I got no problem working one or two of those kind of deals, but I need I want to go home feeling like I won or lost every single day, really. You know, what did we close? What did I close lost today? What did we lose? That's the kind of stuff that always made me feel alive. So, you get into a 18-month kind of government deal and it's just like, oh man, that was really difficult for me. I'm not a super patient person, and I just don't. I struggle with like inefficiency, and you run
Mhm.
into all those things in that kind of world, right? But it's an important lesson actually if you think about it, because one of the mistakes that I think salespeople and sellers often make, especially earlier in their careers, they're not self-aware enough to put themselves in the right position to succeed and to enjoy it. They'll be like, oh, I need to get an enterprise sales job just because like somebody told them that that's the career path. But if you're a super kind of, you know, impatient person who needs positive reinforcement every day, needs to close deals to, stay hyped up and stuff, that's the wrong arena for you. So I spent the first part of my career really in like transactional sales environments where you could close, deals every single day, legitimately, like even one call closes. I
Mhm.
sold stuff to real estate agents and brokers, automotive dealerships, contractors, all of these kind of, services type small businesses, restaurants, bars, all this kind of stuff. And only later in my career did I kind of start to move up into kind of, mid market and kind of dabbling in, these larger kind of deals and stuff like that. And even then it was, kind of tough for me mentally and emotionally. Right. So I think people should pay more attention actually to who they are and what type of, system is going to suit them best, right? If you move real slow, you probably shouldn't go into a transactional arena. If you move super, super fast and you're super impatient and you get affected when deals don't close right away, you might want to think about whether you should go into an enterprise arena.
Yep.
And I'm on that scale. I'm more toward you, right? At the enterprise sales is difficult. I think it'd be difficult to manage as well, just because months go by, and how do you judge if that deal's getting closer or not? There's just a lot of unknowns out there. But
Yeah.
I like to wake up every day and think that, hey, I can make a deal today.
Yeah.
I can make a deal today. Doesn't matter. And that's the kind of, I guess, patience I have too.
Yeah.
I'm the weirdo introvert here, huh? That just wants to play chess with 30-minute clock, like 30-minute moves, and drag it out and just overanalyze everything to death and take my time and just
Yeah.
live, bask in the ambiguity and the unknown.
Yeah. I'm not built that way, man. I'm not built that way.
Yep. No, it reminds me of the difference when I was playing ball between relief pitching and starting. And when you're a relief pitcher, you're in the bullpen, you're playing games and joking and having a good time. Phone rings, and in a matter of minutes, you're in the game. Like, it's just boom, it happens. It's fast. It could be anytime. When you're a starter, you got 4 days to think about your next start. So you're watching tape, you're studying film, you're studying. I mean, you do all that as a reliever too, but there's all this prep time, and sometimes guys overthink it. They over prep it, and they're better just getting thrown in without really having much leeway or much preparation. So yeah, it's kind of a similar sort of dynamic, I feel like, with baseball.
Yeah. I never thought about that before, but that definitely resonates for me.
Yep. And Kevin, just so you know, I did notice that Corey Kluber retired. And Scott, so you know, when I got released from minor league baseball, there was one guy on the team whose ERA was worse than mine. And I knew it was going to be me or him that was going to get cut. We were both having kind of rough seasons in the California League. And I'm like, I'm a full point better than this other guy. Like, surely they're going to let him go. But I was wrong. They let me go. And the other guy's name was Corey Kluber. They kept him. And that ended up being a pretty good choice, because I don't know if I would have been able to match that career from that point forward.
That's incredible. Oh my God.
So that was, I noticed that. I was like, that's the end of an era. Like, all the guys that I played against and with are slowly fading out of the game at this point. So it's a little bittersweet to see.
Happens to all of us.
It does. It still stings, though, right?
Yes, it does. Especially, if you have kids and all of a sudden they're bigger, stronger, faster than you, and you're like, what has happened? This is not okay.
Fortunately, I'm a few years away from that. I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. So
you got a ways. Mine are 16 and 14, and it's ever ahead or on the cusp of being ahead of me on just about every category at this point.
The tides are turning.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling. Not gonna lie.
There's got to be mixed.
There's some pride. There's some pride there. Like, my kids are big and grown and doing some amazing things. But then there's a flip side of that pride, which is like bruised ego. Like, holy shit, my 16-year-old, I think, is taller than me almost. Or, my 14-year-old, I can't beat him anymore shooting baskets. There
would be
makes more 3-pointers than me now.
There'd be mixed emotions on the flip of that too. Like, if they get to be 18 and 16 and they're still smaller and weaker and you're just dominating them still, like, sure, your ego.
That wouldn't feel good either, I suppose. Yeah. True.
So thinking back to, notable sales in your career, is there a sale that comes to mind that was emotional like your emotions got really heightened, or it wasn't just normal business, but it impacted you emotionally, and it could be positive or negative. But is there something that generated a stronger emotional response than the normal sales process?
The only thing I can think of it really is my very first sale because I got hired with a group of, I don't know, let's call it 20. It was like a pretty big class, but it was all at once and brand new. This company was a startup and they were going to sell to real estate agents for the first time. We got kind of thrown into the deep end, so to speak. I think we had about 3 or 4 hours of training in the morning the very first day, and then off you go. And I'd never sold anything before in my life, never had any kind of office job like this. And by the end of the first week, I think I was the last guy that had not already made a sale or hadn't quit or gotten fired already. It was that kind of boiler room type situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was 27 years old. I had just come off of being hospitalized for 4 years, and before that, playing soccer and being in grad school and stuff. So I had no frame of reference for winning, losing in a business sense, like what's normal, what's not. And I was just like terrified, like I'm going to get fired at any moment. That's what I was thinking. It's for sure going to happen. So when I got that very first deal, it was like a relief more than joy. Like, okay, I just bought myself maybe some more time, to kind of see if I can figure this thing out. And then I remember a little bit of a light bulb going on, like, well, that felt pretty good actually when I closed that deal. Like that was kind of a cool feeling. I could get used to that feeling. I think I would maybe want that feeling again. So not really, not tons of sorrow or emotion or joy, but more just like relief, and then a little bit of maybe hope or a spark of ambition started of some sort, where it's like, that was awesome. I need more of that. That's really the one sale that I feel like I've talked about the most over the years. I think about or remember the most. I still remember it was a real estate agent in Hawaii, and it was at like 9:30 California time on a Friday night. And I was still in the office because I was paranoid that I was going to get, fired if I didn't get something done. So I'm using the time zone to my advantage, calling Hawaii, So it's like I still remember those details 20 years ago. I can't say the same about other sales that I've done. So that would be the one.
Does it feel like it maybe I'm taking a stab here, but it's almost like it was a sign of affirmation, right? That you could do this, you could be successful here. Maybe there was some sort of doubt there. You're worried about
There
getting.
definitely, yeah, there definitely was doubt prior to that for sure. Um, I don't think it wasn't affirmation in the sense of like, oh, I'm confirming I know I can do this now, or let me show those people I know what I'm doing. Because I was like this relief, like, okay, I got one. Thank God. I did that one. But more of like affirmation of hope. Like, I might be able to do this. Maybe I'll figure this out. Maybe I'll get good at this. Right. And just
Wasn't
creating that. And that was enough to kind of get me hooked to want that feeling again. And so I learned a few things. And, one of the things was I'm not as good as everybody else because I've never done this before. So just like in sports, as you probably know, if you're not as good as somebody, what do you have to do? You have to outwork people or compete harder, want it more, right? So, I kind of looked around the room and I'm like, well, I'm the only one here on Friday night at 9:30. I'm 27 years old. A lot of 27-year-olds are doing something different on Friday night at 9:30. And that I kind of just paused and thought, the only reason that probably happened is because I was willing to outwork people and outwork my boss. You know, he can't fire me if I'm still in the office at 9:30 working. You can't be mad, right? Um, and so I just kind of decided that that's what I was going to do, and I kind of changed my approach a little bit. And you know, it's not very popular to say nowadays, but like I was the first guy in the office, to the obsessive point where if somebody beat me one day, I moved my arrival time back 15 minutes earlier. It was like, no way. Mentally, I was like looking for an advantage, and I started doing the same thing at night. I'm not letting Richie leave, you know, after me. I'll just sit there and pretend to work even. I just mentally need this advantage, you know? And then I did something that ended up being really good for me and a couple folks, but I had a couple buddies that I had kind of made at work, and they were of the same age and same kind of mindset, you know, first kind of corporate sales job. And I started telling them, like, hey, real estate agents and brokers work every weekend, man. Like, we're stupid for not working on the weekend. Like, I know you don't want to go to the office, but, you know, what if we go to the office from like 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., like every Saturday, religiously, you know, 3 extra hours, 12 hours extra a month minimum, right? And then let's go surf afterwards and grab a drink and, you know, get some food and kind of make a routine out of it. So none of that would have happened without that first deal kind of arriving in the manner in which it showed up for me, and me kind of paying attention and leaning into that and saying, well, I guess I have to do these kinds of things in order to get good. And, you know, luckily for me, it worked.
Scott, just out of curiosity, how much was that first deal worth?
Oh God, 3 to 5K probably.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Nothing. So, I mean, it kind of goes back to, you know, your most memorable sales, the ones that really impact you the most. The dollar matter.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Dollar amount doesn't matter, right? It's about what you can do, what doors that opens for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the ability to allow that to adjust and change your entire mentality.
Yeah.
And how you think, your mindset, right?
Yep.
I know, because I assure you, in those first 5 days that I was selling, I wasn't thinking about outwork somebody, or where can I get an advantage? Where can I squeeze 12 extra hours of a work month? Nobody was teaching me that. There was no podcast back then, so it's not like I'm listening to somebody tell me this kind of stuff, right? But that one deal, which was, again, I think it was like $300 a month for like 6 to 12 month contracts, somewhere in there. Just like nothing, right? But winning that had an impact on me and how I looked at things and thought about things and the effort I gave. And I restructured, you know, a lot of my life to lean into that and try to turn this into a career that would be, you know, long lasting and have a future. And I wasn't looking at it in terms of like, I'm going to make millions of dollars off of this one day. I was just like, okay, I have to do this if I want to keep my job and just be you know, keep paying the rent and keep food on my plate and that kind of stuff. Like, this is what it's going to take. And then, you know, all those successes kind of compound and you start reaching new levels of insight in terms of mindset, approach, what's possible. Now I'm not closing one deal. I'm like, how do I close one deal every day?
Yep.
You know, and then you prove you can do that in that kind of arena. And you're like, I wonder if I could close 2 or 3 every day. Can I close 60 deals in a month? This shit was like thought to be impossible at the time, you know, and then all of a sudden you're finding ways to do it. And people are like, how'd that happen? You know?
What I love about this is, you know, having been a lifelong competitor of sorts, whether it's baseball or racing mountain bikes or sales or whatever, I'm fascinated by underdogs and underdog stories and this whole underdog mindset and this growth mindset. And like listening to you tell that story about landing that one sale, and it wasn't so much affirming that, haha, I've arrived, I'm a success. But it was more affirming that you're not a definitive, like you're not a definite failure at that point. There's hope. And so now what I'm hearing from you is like you're in this mental place of curiosity about what's possible, what's next, what can I do. I feel like I'm not as good as the rest of the team, but can I figure out a way to operate in this space and what's possible if I just give it my all, knowing that what's the worst that could happen at this point.
Yeah. You're trying to
That
find your home in the team or your role maybe in the team, you know. And first it's like, okay, maybe I do belong here. And then it becomes, how can I stick and be here, for a long term? And then it's like, okay, here's my role. This role, maybe I'm a little too good for this role. Maybe there's a bigger role, for me. And you just keep, going from there, right? And I think having that kind of outlook and trying to find what can I do differently here, or how can I optimize this? What can I do better at that? I think I've tried to keep that kind of mentality for the last 20 years and looking at all the things that I'm doing, not necessarily with the mindset today at 46 years old of, how do I work 9,000 extra hours over everybody else? But that flips from 27 to 47 and now almost 47. It's like, how do I continue to earn what I've been earning while working less, not more? And it's just a different perspective. I wasn't trying to think that way at 27. It was like, I got the time and energy. I got to put in the hours. But now I'm like, I don't want to be in the office for 12 hours. I'm not being in the office at 9:30 at night on a Friday. Like, that's not what I want to do. But how do I succeed still without putting in those kind of hours, right?
the commonality there is impact, right? Like whether you were 27 wanting to burn all the hours, first in, last out, or today wanting to be more mindful of how you're using your time, it seems like you're still trying to maximize the impact you can have.
I think I'm trying to maximize the impact, not just on myself, but on others as well. That could be clients, that could be colleagues, that could be loved ones. And then the impact on myself, more personal stuff, is like, could be my actual income, could be the actual number of days and hours I work, could be my ability to do certain things like take that vacation or, buy this house or something like that. Or, and then just the feeling and the emotion of, no longer trying to prove necessarily that you're a success, but get comfortable with the fact that you are a success. Try to find ways to not beat yourself up and feel like a failure if you didn't do better than yesterday every single day. I don't know if these are things that just come with age and experience and everybody goes through them, or they're any way, shape, or form unique. I would imagine they're not that unique, but my first time through this that I'm aware of. So
I don't think it's. I think it's a natural progression, right? So you spend your early days,
so.
Doing those, laying the foundation, getting that 10,000 hours to become an expert at something, and oftentimes you have to do it 3 or 4 times and be kind of an expert at or pro at 2 or 3 different things to be able to then flip the switch once you get into your 40s and be able to make the same amount of impact for yourself and others while doing less because that foundation's already there. So there's less work to be done each time. I guess scaling would be part of it as part of the thought process as well. I think that's...
And you got more work to do in other areas of your life, depending on how your life went. But, you got partner, relationships, you've got parenting stuff, duties, I mean, I don't know about you guys. You're not there yet, but you will be. But my kids have soccer practice, basketball practice, track practice, band practice. They used to have baseball practice on top of everything else. It's like I'm doing something. I'm like an Uber driver from 4:30 to 10 p.m. every night. I can't be working even if I want to, right? And that's the season of life that some of us, chose to go through, and you have to adjust.
Yeah. Well, let's finish it off with the funniest sell, the one that really strikes your funny bone, your funniest sell that you ever done, that you really enjoy looking back on.
The first thing that comes to my mind is I closed a deal one time 100% over email. And this is 2004, 2005, maybe. So before it was like fashionable, before there was some 23-year-old TikToker saying all you have to do is email people to close deals. Yeah, I was, it was like Outlook was probably the email tool. And I got some email request for information or whatever. And I just started responding back and asking like one question. And there must have been like 47 emails flying around. And at one point I remember thinking, it feels like this person is actually getting serious to the point where they might buy something, and the environment that I came from, it was, you have to close a deal on the phone. You have to talk to somebody. It's stupid to just, fax somebody over an agreement and expect it to get signed and faxed back. Because yes, we had to use fax machines in order to close deals back then. But the person eventually was like, send me over the agreement so I can take a look at it. I said, fuck it, fill out the agreement. I'm going to fax this thing. I've never talked to this person before. Same product that I was selling as the story, by the way, with my first deal. And sure enough, they signed it and it came back like 3 or 4x bigger than my first deal. So It was like a pretty decent sized deal for that sale and what our normal average contract value was. And I just kind of was laughing. I still kind of laugh to this day. Like, how's that possible? This, but it's kind of, that person was, kudos to them. They were ahead of the game. They wanted to buy something without talking to a salesperson way before that was the norm. That never happened in that job ever again. Total like rarity for me at that time.
It was a good deal that stuck and didn't have any problems with it down the line.
Not that I remember.
That's good.
Maybe I blacked that part out. I don't know. I don't remember anything bad happening.
I remember back in 2004, 2005. I mean, like, email really didn't start doing deals until just a few years ago, maybe like 10 years ago. That
you know what that funny deal did teach me, though. It did teach me that emailing people worked, and so back then, this is like before spam laws existed. These real estate websites, if you went to real estate websites, if you clicked on the person's email address, which was on the main like homepage on realtor.com or whatever, it would like auto populate an Outlook message. And so I've like made my signature file some template, prospecting email. And I had this whole rhythm where it'd be like copy, paste, alt, send, just with my fingers. I'm like clicking, and it was this whole rhythmic thing. And I would just sit there at night watching, games or whatever. And I would just send off hundreds of emails at that time. And people would, write back, buzz off, unsubscribe. But then I'd get all these actual positive messages back. So, I guess I was email prospecting before that was really a thing.
The original cadence.
Yeah, also known as spam.
But it worked.
But it worked back then. There wasn't that many people doing it. It was a brief moment in time, less than a year probably, where it was glorious. And people like me ended up, ruining it probably for everybody after that.
Well, Scott, thanks for your time and joining us today. Like, where can our listeners find you? Where can they go and learn more about what you do and find you in the internet? Not that they're wanting your spam, but if they're actually
Yeah,
wanting,
those days are gone. You won't get that anymore. I run my own consulting business. Like I said, working with primarily like Series A, Series B companies. That's scottleaseconsulting.com. And I do a lot of other things. Got a couple other businesses, communities that I run, events that I run. Best place to learn about that stuff and message me is just go to LinkedIn and shoot me a DM or a connection request. I respond to every single one of those that I see that isn't spammy. So hope to hear from anybody out there who wants to have a chat about something.
awesome. Any last words of wisdom before we depart?
Thank God football season's over because I need a break from the pain. I need about 8 months to recover. And then come August, I'll be feeling real optimistic again, like an idiot. Delusional, optimistic idiot.
Optimism is often a good thing, even so cheers to optimism.
Keeps us coming back. Keeps us coming back.
Yeah.
Thanks again for your time, Scott.
Okay,
Yeah.
guys.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers.